Chapter 4. Smash Mouth Discore. The parking lot of the old car wash is strewn with the remnants of sun-bleached carbon fiber cans, paper bits, and sand. A dozen cars are parked in no particular order, neglecting the worn-out parking lane markings. Kids are sitting on the hoods of their cars or standing around talking to each other. In some distance, two crow are playing catch with a large silvery disc. Despite its size, the disc seems to sail effortlessly back and forth between them. Corin gets out of his car and waves to the crowd. He wears his training outfit with the grinning Red Devil logo on his chest. Reaching into the back, he heaves out a similar large disc that almost covers his upper body. Resting the disc on his leg, he addresses the crowd.
Listen up, all spectators, stay at the sidelines.
Corin's voice booms across the parking lot.
Everybody, watch the discs. I don't want people to get hurt.
We're playing full tilt. I don't have my gear with me.
And Amai interjects in surprise.
No, we got all long bombs down pat. We need to work on the walkthroughs for the short stuff.
Corin eases her concerns, but also warns her.
But I know you guys. You get lost easily in the heat of the moment.
He instructs his team.
Starter all with me. Substitutes start going through the play trees for Eagle Under. Watch the switch for the second level blocker. Belian, check the Surfers versus Lacoste game. Look for plays of their center fielder shifting right. That's where he gets hammered all the time. That dude is shaky. Our D must figure out a way to get to him. We do 9-on-9 later.
As Corin wraps up his instructions, the crowd splits into players and spectators, eagerly awaiting the start of the practice. Arya leans against a rusty light pole. Her arms folded, she listens in as two Len discuss the upcoming game.
The Surfers are tough.
One of them says,
Their D8 up Corin alive in the last finals.
True, but we have Kyron back now.
The other Len replies,
Last time, without someone stretching the field, they flooded our intermediate routes and even Corin could not hit the middle.
Yeah, well, our blocker did not stay with the flankers long enough.
The first Len argues.
We had 8 broken trio penalties. We need to keep the trios together.
Arya neutrally listens, but Discord was never a sport that could excite her. All the waiting between the plays and half the time she didn't even know what everyone was cheering about. Yes, it looks good how they hurl that heavy disc through the air and their strong bodies pushing and shoving each other when they protect the disc. She admires the other Amma who play as blocker or sentry guard in the game, but physical confrontation was never her forte. A bit removed, Arya hears the words, Evren, and exam, and she casually walks a few steps, as if to have a better vantage point in her new position.
No one knows what happened, okay?
Persian is slightly annoyed about all the fuzz about Evren.
All we know is that this praise Amma brought her to school.
She says.
She had a tussle with Corin, and after the exam, she blacked out for a few seconds.
Persian shrugs her shoulders and adds.
Probably did not good in her exam. Poor thing.
Arya clenches her fists in her pant pockets at Persian's crocodile tears. The others around Persian nod thoughtfully. The Len come in, picks up the thread.
I can't stand Pris. She's more crow than Amma, and her car. How's that even legal anymore? She shouldn't even be allowed to drive that ugly thing in open traffic.
Tell me about it, and don't get me even started on her friends. You.
The Amma contorts her face in disgust.
Please, these apes know nothing but tampering with outdated cars.
She casts suspicious knowing glances around as she adds.
Probably AI hacking, too.
Did you see what she did to Arya yesterday?
A crow chimes in.
Nearly killed the poor Ma. I stood right next to her.
Arya snorts as she heard enough of this conversation. She steps forward with her hands in her pockets, casually telling them,
Nice chicken pick party you got going here.
Bewildered looks answer her words.
Ever seen a flock of chickens with one different chicken?
Arya casually says,
It's interesting. The others start to pick it because it's different. First one, then 2, and in the end, the whole flock.
Sweeping her gaze around the crowd, she continues.
The chicken gets picked on wherever it goes, and they pick and pick and pick.
Arya accentuates each picks with a hand gesture. A beak dipping down repeatedly, the same gesture teenagers use to show disgust, akin to vomiting on the floor.
That's a chicken pick party. Just pray that none of you becomes different.
Arya clucks as she slowly walks past them.
Bok? Bagok?
The crow angrily reaches out for her, but Persian slaps his arm.
No, let her go.
She says,
Maybe she likes Pris because she is an AMA too, why wank off alone?
she says louder than necessary. Arya almost breaks her stride, but keeps casually strolling toward another group of spectators. Inside, she is glad that it went this way.
There is no way I'm going to talk to that shit face ever again.
Arya rages inside, both furious and relieved. Then the cute Chiron crosses her mind.
So what about Chiron? Should I just let it go? Leave it to Persian?
She shakes her head involuntarily.
Who knows what she will tell the poor boy?
She thinks.
I've got to talk to him. Where is he?
Looking around, Arya sees Chiron talking to Tuama, explaining some blocking technique by pushing and holding his right shoulder against the midsection of the ama. Corin calls them together for another walkthrough. It looks like they will be training for some time to come. Arya's gaze sweeps over the parking lot. Left and right of the car wash, abandoned industrial buildings loom with blinded windows and battered roofs. A general feel of decay hovers over the whole area. As Arya wanders to the exit, she notices that quite a few sites carry the logo of Winslow Industries. A Toro 500 slowly glides through the entrance onto the parking lot. Arya spots two passengers through the darkened glass. The driver seems strangely familiar. The car suddenly brakes as it passes her. The driver's windows roll down and Raylan's smiling face looks at Arya.
Arya? What are you doing here?
Raylan looks ahead, points at the other cars and grins at Arya.
Seriously?
He baits her.
Another party?
Arya laughs, but tries to keep herself from grinning. She nonchalantly replies,
Yeah, why not? And tomorrow we party in school.
Raylan laughs shortly, amused by her wits.
What are these children doing here, Crow Winslow Jr.?
A high-pitched, annoyed voice sounds from inside the car.
I don't know Cyphrin, but I have a pretty good idea.
Raylan smiles. He parks the car next to the entrance and gets out. His eyes gleam at the sight of a crow leaping up to secure a flying disc. Memories of camaraderie and the will of the team to win, the thud of the disc hitting him in stride, swerving through opponents' safeguards, and of course holding up the big one in victory. He sighs and introduces the Len in the car.
Arya, this is Len Cyphrin Cherna, head of Winslow Estates Management. I'm showing her around to find potential sites for development.
Raylan nods to a pale, white-haired Len who just stepped out of the car. The tall Len wears a gray carbon fiber suit with silver lines running down her arms and shoulders. Peering out under her blue shades, she surveys the site with distaste.
I don't think this will work.
She sulks and orders her arm clip to download the details for this property. Meanwhile, Raylan says to Arya,
So, the bombing closed the gym, and now you are here, preparing for the game.
Arya nods, wary if this is trouble brewing.
Whose idea was that?
He asks, interested.
Mine. But the gates were open and no one is here and we just use the parking lot, not the buildings, and we'll...
Whoa, I'm not a cop.
Raylan is surprised by her defensive posture.
Why is she worried so much? Something else?
He quickly examines her face, but only senses her fear of breaking the law. Raylan tries to cheer her up.
But I can put you in handcuffs, if that makes you feel better.
Ooh, that's kinky.
Arya replies coyly as her fears subside. She wants Raylan to know she is not a little ama. From the other side of the car, the Len abruptly looks up from her display and grins.
Well, what are we waiting for?
She chuckles, pointing at the car. Raylan's ice-cold gaze makes her realize that her boss thinks differently.
I am sorry, Crow Winslow Jr. That was way out of line and I sincerely...
Yeah. It's not okay. But I'll let this slide.
Raylan fixes the Len with his eyes.
This time. And you promise to call me Raylan, okay?
The Len clears her throat, trying to regain authority. She gestures over the parking lot and asks,
Why are we here? This lot is too small. I thought we...
Raylan interrupts her cheerily.
Well, you never know, right?
He says.
Together with the other lots. It may work. Why don't you start to verify the correct size of this property?
The Len gazes out under her blue shades incomprehensively, while Raylan explains.
The land registry office has not been out here for ages, right? You could start over there and work your way back.
Raylan gestures to the far end of the parking lot where carbon cans, cardboard paper, and other leftovers of civilization enjoy a thriving ecosystem. The Len looks at Raylan, then at Arya and back to the far corner of the parking lot. She frowns at the large group of teenagers and their cars.
These kids have to go.
she says in a whining tone. The Len needs some victims after her defeat.
They distract the length measurement.
She insists.
I cannot work like this. Besides, they are trespassing. This is private property. I shall call the police.
Simmer down, Cyphrin.
Raylan advises.
These kids do no harm. Just take a few more laser scans. That little walk will do you good. The fresh air and all.
Raylan motions over the parking lot that lies simmering in the afternoon heat. A gust of wind swirls sand across the concrete.
As you wish, Crow Winslow Jr.
The Len answers between clenched teeth as she walks away. Arya looks on, reflecting on Raylan's deduction about the Discore training.
Was that really a coincidence?
She thinks, quickly glancing at Raylan.
There are not that many places with enough free space around in this district. It's not difficult to deduce if you want to find someone that is dear to you so that you even schedule an inconspicuous property inspection.
Arya's heartbeat climbs as these thoughts pulse through her mind. Smiling, she asks Raylan directly.
This is no coincidence, is it?
Nervously looking around, his boss demeanor morphs back into the 20-year-old Crow college student whom Arya met last night. He sidesteps Arya's inquiry and gestures to the crowd of teenagers.
Let's have a look at the training. I have not been on the field for, wow,
He pauses as he realizes how long it has been.
more than 2 years. No wonder I'm getting fat.
Arya laughs,
You getting fat? Where under your feet?
looking down at his legs. She appreciates his stocky calves that are visible below his leather gown. Although he is smaller than most Crow, his physique is balanced. She could see how he was playing Discore, not fast, but agile and powerful.
You are too kind.
Raylan smiles as he starts walking toward the cars. Looking at the players practicing their formations, he continues,
But you are right. This is not a coincidence. I came here for you.
It takes much out of Raylan to meet her openness. Arya's smile freezes on her face as she slows her stride. She was pretty sure that he came for her, but hearing it still sends a jolt through her mind.
He is really into me.
Arya senses that this conversation has left its cozy harbor and is sailing into uncharted territory.
I'm honored.
Arya replies in a futile attempt to turn the chat away from unknown dangers. Inside, she braces for impact. Raylan halts and takes Arya's hand.
Arya, I don't know a lot about you, but what I know,
He feels his own confidence dwindling and quickly adds,
I feel that I somehow need to know more about you. About the way you are.
Arya feels the soft touch of his hand in hers and the sincere tone in his voice. Contradicting emotions swell up in her mind. The first ripple of being desired lifts her up, only to crash down into the next wave hollow.
He is 3 years older than me. What if he just uses me for whatever?
Arya looks over to the far side of the parking lot, where the Len is doing her work.
She is a Len. Maybe Raylan and her want me too.
She hesitates to answer Raylan, keeping her eyes on his hands. She just nods to him in understanding.
And he is so rich. His guys are probably all snazzed out and arrogant.
Looking back at the Len across the parking lot, Arya sees her worries confirmed.
Yup, probably a bunch of silver spoon posers.
Maybe we can hang out sometime. You know, go to the beach or something.
Raylan suggests casually. He senses Arya's hesitation and tries to keep a cool expression. He lets go of her hand.
Arya, I don't want to push you into anything.
He says.
I just like you.
Raylan's palms start to sweat as he admits to himself how much he likes her. He feels his own vulnerability, almost physically.
What do you want me to say?
Arya is overwhelmed by the sudden serious turn of their talk. She enjoys their playful banter, and she is drawn to Raylan's quiet intensity. Yet, Arya also feels a darker side in him, an unspoken anger that scares her. She cautiously smiles at Raylan, answering her own question with unguarded sincerity.
I like you too, Raylan.
She says.
It's just that right now
Arya cuts herself off.
No, don't let him know about Perjin, about Chiron.
Arya hates herself for not being true, but the falling apart of her triple relationship is something she has to see through herself. Raylan nods sympathetically, trying to cover his disappointment.
It's okay.
He replies.
I guess you have a lot on your plate. With school and all.
Arya feels the need to ease the heavy note in this conversation and teases Raylan about his car.
Hey, when the Toro 500 and me want to take a ride to the beach. You can come with.
Raylan is again taken aback by the sudden shift in Arya's demeanor. There it is again. Her radiant smile burning away all shadows with natural ease. In the last split second, Raylan aborts the hug he wants to give her. Right here, right now.
I don't know.
Raylan replies slowly, shaking his head in uncertainty.
Can I trust a stranger like you on the beach? All alone?
His bright grin speaks a different language, and his posture visibly straightens as he beams at Arya.
Sure you can trust me. I'll bring the shovel. Oops, did that come out loud?
She covers her mouth with her hand, and her eyes sparkle even more. Raylan swallows expressively.
Well, don't call me.
He quickly says,
I'll call you. Gotta go.
Not so fast, Crow.
Arya catches up to Raylan, grabbing his hand.
You owe me a car ride.
Her smile freezes as she sees Corin looking directly at her from the distance. She lets go of Raylan's hand and pats his back.
No pressure, though. No pressure.
Corin has just called a 5-minute break. While everyone lounges in the shadows of the main building or behind their cars, Corin struggles to focus. Evren's revelations about Pris's pregnancy and the looming Ecos terrorist threat have him deeply worried, and his concerns for Evren are hardly less troublesome. The vision of her tiny, fragile body lying on her bed in complete exhaustion is still fresh in his mind.
I need to talk to Pris.
He opens CM on his arm clip and shoots her a message. Hi, sweetie. Evren told me, sad face. Will you be around to talk today? Hug, heart. Corin watches Arya and a crow walking up to the cars. Something in the crow's walk and his pose startles him. He knows this crow.
Ray,
He shouts surprised.
that's you, right?
Corin starts walking toward Raylan with wide-open arms.
Ray, you son of an Emma. Long time no see.
He clasps his arms around Raylan, but Raylan is quicker and ducks the closing arm lock. The much smaller crow rams his shoulder into Corin's hip and picks him up, ready to slam him to the ground. Laughing, Raylan lets his friend back to the ground and grins.
That's all you got, boy.
He laughs.
You'll need to be quicker than that.
He then pulls Corin to his chest and bear hugs him, clapping his back.
Bah, I don't play defense. Who cares, right?
Corin replies, laughing. Then he breaks up their hug and takes a look at Raylan with outstretched arms. Eager to catch up with his friend's life, he asks,
Crow, dude, what's up? I haven't seen you in ages. Taryn told me you're working for your dad now?
Yeah, getting by.
Raylan shrugs defensively as if hit with an insult. Taryn. That name strikes a deep chord in Raylan. Melodies of school of Discore games, of her laughter and of their joy as a triple with their Amma friend Liza. On dissonance about opinions how their life should develop. Her melody still haunts his mind whenever he listens. Even yesterday at the beach, he tried to light her desire for friendship.
Taryn's doing freelance AI stuff now, and her
Corin innocently chats on, not factoring in that Raylan was in a triple with Taryn. Raylan wants to mute Taryn's melody fast.
Well, tell your sister I said hi.
He quickly talks over Corin, changing the topic.
So, how's your team doing?
Raylan asks,
I've heard you have Kyron back. What are you going to do against their D? The surfer sentries are brutal. I think you got their center fielder is a chicken, but you need to score.
Raylan is back in school, discussing tips and tricks of Discore formations and opponents' weaknesses, feeling annoyed at being overlooked. Arya stands alone. She watches the two crows hug and talk like old friends as they walk toward the made-up playing field. She is also puzzled by Raylan's reaction to the name Taryn.
Maybe bad memories?
Arya suspects, recalling the short talk between Raylan and the Len Taryn. She didn't know Taryn until yesterday, but now Arya knows Raylan is still into her. Folding her arms, she surveys the scene. In the background, she spots Perjan and Kyron leaning against the side of a car, both looking at her.
Okay, act cool. Keep it together.
She gives herself orders.
Don't let Perjan under your skin. Don't get flustered. She likes that.
Arya plans her approach like a field general as she casually walks over to them.
Who's that crow?
Kyron asks, looking over Arya's shoulder. He is the tallest crow here. His long legs and upper body tower over everybody else. Perjan answers in Arya's stead.
That's Raylan Winslow, son of Crow Raylan Winslow Sr., one of the city's richest industrialists.
She smirks.
Quite a catch, Arya.
Arya tries to breathe normally.
She's baiting me. I can see it. She wants me to explode.
You're awful.
Kyron nudges Persian but then smiles at her.
It's all good. She's joking.
Kyron grins as he tries to appease the situation. He bows down to Persian, kissing her lovingly on her head.
And where would Arya get such a sweet Len like you, right?
Persian hates these kisses and pushes him away with a frown.
I don't know, maybe another rich Len?
She asks.
Like the one over there?
She points at Raylan's assistant who is walking back to the car. Arya finally has enough of this.
Why are you so hurtful, Persian?
She fixes Persian with her gaze and calmly addresses her.
You always pick on me when Kyron is around, and when he is not, you pick on him.
She says.
If you don't like me to triple with you, why don't you say so?
Oh, what's going on?
Kyron exclaims, completely caught off guard.
It's not me fooling around with any crow who's not fast enough to escape up a tree.
Persian's snide remark belies the tension in her voice.
Ugh, so that's it.
Arya muses out loud.
You're jealous of me, all heart and compassion, or is it because you can't control me anymore?
Arya's words cut through the air like a razor, slicing the tension between them.
I know you, Persian.
She adds more softly. Her mild tone hits a weak spot in Persian's intellectual armor. She squints at Arya, barely concealing her emotions. Arya shakes her head.
It's never about love with you.
She tells her.
It's always about control, isn't it? Oh, Persian, you are the definition of a Len.
She pauses.
I just wish you could be more open to change. People do change, Persian. You just have to let them.
Kyron stands up and looks down at Arya.
What?
He is not really sure what is going on at the moment. He knows of Persian's ways, and it has never been a problem for Arya in their triple.
What's wrong, Arya?
Kyron searches for clues in her face, and he feels that something is seriously not right. His caring way makes it even harder for Arya to carry on.
Persian, answer me. What is it in me that repels you? Why did you join Kieran and me in the first place?
Persian closes her eyes to gather herself, her shoulders heaving in silence.
Arya?
Kyron quietly asks, as if walking through a minefield, but apparently, he is not in this discussion at all. Arya touches Kyron's arm to soothe him, but she keeps looking at Persian.
What have I done to you, Persian?
Persian finally leans forward and puts her hands on her hips.
What have you done to me?
She snarls.
Oh, where do I start?
Persian takes a deep breath, throwing her arms up in resignation.
You're selfish, irresponsible, and too much of a coward to play Discore. While Kyron and I endured my relatives, you were out partying. You always have to be somewhere cool and…
Persian hesitates with a side glance to Kyron, who gets increasingly nervous. It's like he is watching a game of catch, but the ball is made of precious glass, ready to splinter into 1,000 shards.
Yes, Arya, I never liked you that much,
Persian says.
You and your happy-go-lucky attitude, never realizing what's at stake.
Persian seems disgusted and agitated at the same time.
Always talking to everybody with this cheerful, slimy smile of yours. Always talking fashion.
She wants to stop, but her fury whips her forward.
Yes, Arya. I never liked you.
She spits.
But Kyron thinks a lot of you, don't you, Kyron?
She looks up at the crow, who does not want to become the ball in this game of catch.
He likes it when you have no time to help out and party instead. Oh, and as a crow, he is especially proud how you can't get enough and mess around with another crow and another…
Persian presses her hand hard against her hips and leans more forward with each accusation. She is furious.
Persian?
Kyron quietly asks, as he is shocked by her words. He senses that Persian just dropped the precious glass ball, and it broke irreparably. Arya's tears trickle down her face. She feels sad and exhausted, but somehow relieved.
Then maybe we should not see each other anymore.
Arya murmurs, sadly smiling at Kyron through her tears. She steps in to hug him firmly, her head barely reaching his chest.
I'm so sorry, Karen.
She says and walks by Persian without sparing her a glance. That was ugly.
Poor Kyron. I hope he understands now.